Hi there. My name is Diana Levo-Posner, and I'm the Principal Librarian Associate Director of the Exploration and Creativity Department with the Los Angeles Public Library.
And my name is Steve Orozco, and I'm the Library Assistant in the Exploration and Creativity Department. And we're here to welcome you to today's LA Made, Jonathan Gold, A Celebration of Life.
Before we begin, we'd like to thank the National Endowment for the Humanities, our Library Foundation, and our behind-the-scenes staff for helping bring the LA Made program to you virtually. LA Made focuses on the diverse landscape of Los Angeles, highlighting the immense artistic and performance talent that has developed in the course of the city's eclectic history. If you would like to see more of our amazing programs, please visit our online calendar at lapl.org/events. And for our LA programs, visit lapl.org/LA-Made. Our website also has blog posts and video links that highlight the library's diverse resources and upcoming programs. We would also like to take this opportunity to recognize and acknowledge the first people of this land, honor their elders, past and present, as well as their descendants who are citizens of these nations. For more information on which territory you may reside in, check out native-land.ca.
And now for today's program, Jonathan Gold, A Celebration of Life. 4 years ago, on July 21st, 2018, Jonathan Gold, Los Angeles Pulitzer Prize winning food critic, passed away, and the city of Los Angeles has never been quite the same since. To commemorate his incredible life, we've asked several people who've been positively impacted by Jonathan to speak about their memories of him. This includes Genet Agonafer, who is experiencing a bit of technical difficulty from Meals by Genet, Bricia Lopez from Guelaguetza Restaurant, Javier Cabral, editor-in-chief of L.A. Taco, Jazz from Jitlada Thai restaurant, and hosted by L.A.Times columnist Gustavo Arellano. So, without further ado, let's bring everybody onto our LA Made stage.
Woohoo! Here they come.
Yeah, hey everybody. Let's try Genet one more time. Hello, Genet, can you hear us?
Come on, Genet.
Oh, let's try that. Let's one more time. Hold on.
Come on, magic internet work.
Yeah. All right. It looks like it's not. She's going to be there in spirit, though. She was really wanting to do this. But thank you very much all for joining us. We'll remove ourselves and you guys can take it away.
Sure. So I'm supposed to be the moderator, but what is there to moderate when we have a bunch of friends, amigos, compadres, all of that, united to talk about a mentor, a friend, a colleague, all of that. So I think maybe the best way to do it is I'd like to hear all of you talk about what is your role in the Jonathan Gold universe. In other words, was someone who had this huge galaxy of different people whose lives are touched, restaurants that he promoted, people that he mentored. What was your role in that? Like when they do the big, huge Jonathan Gold story, even though obviously there was already a documentary where all of you came out in, what is your role? And I'll start with me because I'm sort of I'm the odd person out in here. All of you are from LA. I'm from Orange County. So what I would say, I was the pretender, the wannabe Jonathan Gold in Orange County. I was a guy who I remember way back in the day, like there'd be quinceañeras at a Union Hall in Buena Park, and I'd get bored immediately because none of the girls wanted to dance with me. So I'd go to the Tower Records right down the street, pick up LA Weekly, and read these amazing food reviews. And I had no idea about LA Weekly. I had no idea about Jonathan Gold, but eventually I start following his name. This is at a time where I wasn't even thinking of being a food critic, thinking of being a writer, an author, any of that. But once I got into my mind, I'm like, I want to be like Jonathan. I want to just cover these foods that I grew up with that I had never seen in the pages of the Orange County Register, which was a big paper in Orange County, of course, growing up there. And so I started doing that. I started getting in myself writing about these food reviews, these different places. Counterintelligence, which is somewhere in these stacks. I try to find the book, Jonathan's legendary collection of articles or reviews that he did. I can't find it. It's somewhere in there. But I remember when I got it, I was just thrilled to see that not only was this god of food writing from Los Angeles doing all these amazing spots that my parents knew, my cousins knew, and all that, but he also knew spots down here in Orange County. He knew Thai spots, he knew Vietnamese spots, he knew Mexican spots. And so imagine my luck that I eventually was able to not just connect with him, especially when he was in LA Weekly, but then become, a friend of his wife as well, Laurie Ochoa, colleagues for a little bit. So that's my role. I'm the pretender. Let's go to the heir to the Jonathan Gold throne, Javier. I think you're the heir.
Oh man, that's those are some big shoes to fill, or some long suspenders to put on my back. Yeah, so I mean, I'm sure people here know my story already, but I mean, I was also like you, like a great a Jonathan Gold pretender myself, but I was very young, and Jonathan Gold, I would read his restaurant reviews, that were restaurant reviews that someone like me that sometimes did not have money to go eat out after school, but I would still he would write about restaurants that maybe it was like a $3 banh mi back in the day, or dumplings back in the day. So he like even before the terms like inclusivity or representation even existed, he was doing that by showing not telling, and then it inspired me. Fast forward 17 years later, because I sent that first email to him in 2005 or 6. And that's one thing that, I think, which is why we're out here. Jonathan Gold always found a way to use his platform to help out other people, whether it was through the brilliant food, like through Bricia and Jazz, or whether it was intellectually, like another food nerd like you and me, Gustavo. But that's my story. I mean, I've definitely don't know if I'm a Jonathan Gold heir, but that's very generous of you to say. But I definitely, every day, I remember to take a deep breath and remember that, that I get to do what I always dreamed of, my dream job. I get to write about food. I get to write about communities via food. And, I always ask myself, like, what would Jonathan Gold do sometimes? And especially as a writer, you've taught me well this too. For your lead, his leads were so powerful, leads being the first couple of sentences in a story, that they would almost disarm you before you kept on reading the story, and it made you feel like you were there eating at a table. So that spirit, that philosophy, I try to keep that torch going, or that torta going, or that dumpling going, or that taco going. But thank you so much. How about, I want to hear Bricia, how did Jonathan Gold, how do you describe yourself in relation to him?
Yeah, so in his universe, so if Javier is, I don't know, pick it, Javier, are you Thor or Ant-Man in the extended Jonathan Gold universe? So Bricia, who are you?
I don't know if I could give myself a role in this, a role per se. I'm not an heir or anything like that. I think I was just a girl who was absolutely blessed to have crossed this path. Extremely grateful that I met him. Honored to have spoken to him. And just really have always been, again, I think it's just gratitude is sort of like what I think about when I think about Jonathan Gold. I met him when I was, I think, 12 years old. Wow. So, like 5 years ago. No, I met him when I was like 12 years old. He really was the first person to ever write about my family's restaurant, Guelaguetza. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Bricia Lopez, as you can see my little name right here. My family owns a Oaxacan restaurant called Guelaguetza. It's in Koreatown. And we specialize in food from Oaxaca. And we were really the first family to promote Oaxacan culture and offer Oaxacan food for a Oaxacan community. And Jonathan Gold, like Javier said, was always a man who was curious, a champion of those who didn't have a voice like he did, and who also understood the power that he held and held it responsibly and held himself accountable in the highest regard. So, he was an anomaly, like Javier said, he was doing things that were way ahead of his time. He wrote about a restaurant in the L.A.Times time after time, and that opened the door, believe it or not, to other writers that were in the Latino community, in the Mexican community, to then learn about a restaurant. And aside from that, I think he's always been there. He's always been like an angel. It's so weird to say like that, but I feel like he's always been our angel when he was alive. He continues to be it in spirit. You know, I think he's still very much alive. He will never, in my eyes, die. He introduced me to Javier, believe it or not. He introduced me to my book agent. He introduced me to so many friends in food that I created a community with. He introduced me to jazz. And he was always really he really believed in me. He really, really believed in me. And I think my role is just a little girl who was always in awe of him. And I remember a couple years ago, even just through the pandemic, when things were just going so hard for us, when we received the Restaurant of the Year, the Jonathan Gold Award, it was I think it's probably the hardest week that we ever had. And it was in 2021, because I feel like 2021 was harder for us than 2020. And I remember getting the phone call, and I thought, man, like, even though you're not here in body, you're still here in spirit, and you're still looking out for your girl. So thank you, and it's just so beautiful. It's so beautiful to remember him. I'm so grateful to be here. I'm so grateful to be able to speak of him. And to my eyes, he will never, ever be dead. I think that he will ever be alive in every Angelino heart, in every foodie's heart. He will be alive in the city for generations to come, for sure.
Our Ángel de la Guardia, our guardian angel for so many people, not just restaurateurs or writers, but just so many. Jazz, what was your role in the Jonathan Gold universe? I'm sorry to continue on this, but I just think it's a great way of setting it, just to see how people have their different relationships with Jonathan.
I understand how Bricia tell the whole world he is a hero. He loved Chef Tui so much, my brother, and no one else in the world know the food more than Jonathan Gold. I remember we start Jitlada 2009 with no customer, but when we start for 9 months, we out of the money. Tui lower the price of the food $5.99. You cannot even buy the food. But every single person who walk in tell me your food so good. And one day Jonathan Gold will walk in, but I'm foreigner, I'm Thai. I didn't understand that American have some food critic or the writer. That's why every single day that we serve the food by myself, I heard they say one day Jonathan Gold will walk in, and I say, who is Jonathan Gold? And one day Jonathan Gold would come in with Carl and his daughter, and it was only one table in the house. And I heard my daughter say, what would you like for drink? And I say, that means he came there before that I didn't know. And I walk into them. His friend tell me that the food is not spicy enough, and I bring the food into Tui to cook more chili for the rye curry. And Jonathan Gold would say his tummy is like a web because of very spicy. And I asked him, do you know who is Jonathan Gold? I asked Jonathan Gold, and then he say, his friend was laughing. They say, why you want to know? I say, all people that come to eat here tell me one day Jonathan Gold will walk in, and I didn't understand if he walk in what they're gonna do with the restaurant. And they laughing, and they say, your dream it come true because Jonathan Gold is in front of you. And I remember my leg it was checking, and I run to Tui and cry and say, you know what, the hero is here. I didn't even know he gonna do for us, but I see him couple more time, but I'm scared because people tell me if the food critic coming in and your food not good, you're not gonna survive. And one day he walked in with camera and wrote down about Jitlada and I can see next follow day the line was up to the street. That what we call him hero, because he not only helped Thai people. Only thing that make me cry on his funeral, because the taco from the street go to taco truck and go to the restaurant, because that the hue of love that he put it on the food. And he the only one in the world know the real food is, like he know what I put in my Thai tea. He know everything about food. If he talking about China, he will tell you what part of China that the restaurant famous. He will tell southern of Thailand it's the tropical season and what kind of food that we cooking. He can tell every single detail of the food that no one else in the world can do. And he loved my brother so much. When my brother died, he set the cancer foundation for my brother. But I remember that I screamed the day that he let all the writer call me back from the hospital, that he passed away that day. Like, I feel like my whole world collapsed. I take order with the tear. And in my culture, religion, next day I bring the whole fit with turmeric that he loved the most to the temple. And I can feel the spirit until now, like Bricia feel like he's still with me. Anytime that he's a God of angel, anytime that I need help, I have trouble, I always pay to Chef Tui and Jonathan Go. And my daughter dream about they together up there in another restaurant. Like my older daughter saw both of them with the smiling. And for me, he's a hero for all the writer. And he loved Javier so much. He loved Bricia so much. I met Bricia when she was a kid with mom. We get together in the Scope Ball Center, and I'm so nervous and checking. Like, he took me out on the stage, to talk about food, about how and so why, it's so much love that I cannot explain. And I know Genet, it's the same thing, like we all like touching him with the big heart. And he will wrote the food when he know that what the real food. He testing every restaurant. He never say bad about anybody. Only thing he told me when I heard he gonna go to Southern Thai cuisine, and I joked with him, oh, you get a new place, and he was laughing. He said, Jazz, don't worry. No one above Tui. I'm not gonna write Southern Thai cuisine on my book. If you wanna check on me, you check 101. That's what me. No one else on. If I don't put on 101, don't worry. And I was laughing. I just wanna joking to him. And he the only writer that walk in and pay every single cent. Don't you dare give him free food. This is the gentleman, because I have so many people that different, like, you want me to write about you. You have to set people and set me the food. And I learned from Jonathan Go how the writer, the real writer, how the gentle, how the giving, how the love that without respect anything back, just want the world to have a good food. That's why, I think Los Angeles never can forget about how big this man, how wonderful this man. And for me, he's still my God angel. He still talk even like Bricia. That's why I'm crying, because I feel the same way that everybody feel, like he's still alive for us, from his writer. He's supposed to write a book with me. That was the last thing that we talked. That's why until now, I never can write a book, because I don't know what to say. I promise him. And if one day his wife gonna do, that's what I'm gonna start doing. That I'm 67 right now. I don't know if I have more year to do that.
Yeah, we're all talking about, everyone's coming in.
You have a
knows
long way to
Jonathan.
go, Jazz. You have a long way to go. So don't.
Too old.
Yeah.
I feel like too old. I let you go to
No,
Thailand.
No,
You're
no.
young.
Right.
You're young.
You're young.
You just keep eating that curry, girl.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
keeping the chiles.
You guys.
Pad Thai for me.
I miss
I'm
him.
basic that way.
Keeping that crying terrier. Papaya salad.
Oh gosh, papaya salad's amazing.
Morning glory salad.
Morning glory salad. Yeah, there we go.
We're all talking. Everyone here is tuning in. They know Jonathan Gold, the legend, but all of you were lucky to know Jonathan Gold, the man. And you've all touched a little bit about what an amazing, kind-hearted person he was. But I was wondering if each of you could share a story that to you, like you think about, and for you, it's like, yep, that is the Jonathan Gold that I love. This is a story that reflects him. And I'll start just so all of you can think of it. For me, the quintessential Jonathan Gold story in my life was we had an event together at the Broad Center with KCRW. This is maybe 2011, 2012, algo así. It was me, Evan Kleiman, our mutual friend, Madrina, who shares the same, just so much with Jonathan. She was moderating, and it was me, Jonathan, and Jennifer Lee, who wrote the Fortune Cookie Chronicles. And time's almost going to start. Jennifer Lee's freaking out. She's like, "Where's Jonathan?" And I'm like, "Don't worry, Jonathan's going to show up." "Where's Jonathan? Where's Jonathan?" "Don't worry, Jonathan's going to show up." We get on stage. "Where's Jonathan?" She's like having what is going on? And I'm like, "You don't know Jonathan. Jonathan's going to show up. Trust me, he's going to show up." So literally, they're introducing all of us. And even the KCRW people are a little bit nervous. And they introduce me, then introduce Jenny. And then finally, when it's Jonathan's turn, they literally introduce him and he walks in on stage like nothing happened. And of course, he was just the most brilliant person there of all of us. And he said then one of the most profound statements I've ever heard about the ethics of eating meat. And he said, look, we live obviously in an industrialized world, but you should always try to eat meat from animals that had an amazing life and just one bad day. And the statement was profound. It was a joke. The audience just broke down laughing. And it has always just stuck with me. So to me, Jonathan was just, he was always going to be his own guy. And he was always going to own whatever room, and just did it in such a humble way that also elevated everyone else. So Bricia, what's a memory of yours that just exemplifies Jonathan?
I've had a couple of the ones that you say, a couple of panels was the same thing. Yes, that's very JG for sure. I mean, there's so many. I would say the one that, because Javier and I were like brother and sister. I'm his younger sister, of course. But Javier and I met through Jonathan Gold, and I still remember the day that he introduced us in a very just almost he just, this man, again, iconic, really cultural icon. But beyond that, the reason he is that person is because he really is that person. So he has this way of just knowing, and so intuitive, and knowing people's spirit, knowing people's souls, knowing people in general. And I think his superpower was just to know people. And he just sort of tells me "Oh, you have to meet Javier. You guys are going to be friends forever." "Oh yeah, you guys are just going to hang out and you guys are going to be great friends. Here, go meet him." And I was like, okay. And then Javi and I just met, and every single way he's always sort of been that person. I also think it's really funny. This is Los Angeles. We live in Los Angeles, right? And I've never seen people freak out about a celebrity the way people freak out about J. Gold. It is so funny. And how he's just so nonchalant about it. And he's just sort of "Oh yeah." But it never got to him. He never had an ego. He never thought he was hot shit. He was just him. You know what I mean? I think anyone that could, anyone especially today, anyone that, whatever, someone says hi, they start believing and drinking the Kool-Aid. He had Kool-Aid for years, and he never drank it. You know what I mean? He just always knew that they were the food was bigger than anything.
Yeah.
I think to me that's just it's hard to think about. Okay, one time we were in a bar, and I had my girlfriends. He came over, he was there, and legit every single one of my girlfriends was "Bricia, introduce us to Jonathan Gold. Bricia." I'm girl, it's you know what I mean? They were there to pick up on dudes, and the only dude they wanted to talk to was Jonathan Gold. So this is just, he was so nice. He was so nice. and he could talk about anything. And I think a lot of people don't know his love for music. He was like an encyclopedia, and schooled me on NWA, schooled me on so many artists. And I just, I remember the first time when he was telling me about his love for music, and how the time when he met Snoop Dogg, and I was just like, what? So I mean, I think a lot of people know him for food, but he's like a rock and roll, like sorry, my ESL, rock and roller.
Ghetto.
Rockero,
No,
yeah.
People forget that he was the first reporter to do a big profile on NWA for the LA Week. Interesting, because I also host a podcast for the L.A.Times, a daily podcast, and today the episode was about how musicians in the 90s started organizing for abortion rights. So I try to go through our archives, like, okay, I know it started in 1991 in LA. So I find the first review, and who wrote? Jonathan was there at a concert with like L7, Pearl Jam, all these groups fighting for abortion rights. Like, I'm like, man, Jonathan, even when I'm not trying to think of you, there you are, and just always do it in a way that just surprises us, always. We now have Genet. She has been able to join us. She's at a better connection. So Genet, if you could join us here on stage, let's just get you on. How's it going, Genet? Oh
no.
We almost had you, Genet. I'm so sorry. These
She
connections.
loved him so much.
Maybe if Genet could write something that I could read out, just because. Oh, are you there? Yeah, if we could have her write something, I'll read it, because I mean her voice is so essential. Genet, a legend in food, also in Los Angeles, someone who Jonathan revered as a pioneer that she was. So Jazz, yeah, if you could share a story from your times. I mean, you shared so many already, but tell us more.
I think he alive in my life and forever in my heart, because still Jitlada customer walk in and I ask them, where do you find out about us? It's always the first word is Jonathan Go, right? Like this is like 4 years past, but Jonathan Go still alive in Jitlada. And the most maximum that I know, he loved Tui so much, because Tui doesn't have education from culinary school. Tui cook from the garden in Thailand, because we have 12 brothers, sisters. He learned from the grandparents. And when he passed away, I was shocked, because I never cooked before in my life in the restaurant. I cook at home. But because of the galaxy of Jonathan Go and Tui, make me stand up and want to save Jitlada. After my brother died 5 years, I tell myself I didn't believe that I'm alive.
Yeah.
Jonathan Go love, like the food talk. I did everything that I eat at home. I put it on the menu. I balance all the flavor that we used to put ingredient. And like I told you, Jonathan Go, the one who encouraged me to stay still, because he always tell people, we never talk, but Jazz talk a lot. But listen to Jazz on my brother funeral. Like he show up on my with Matt Groening, like either Matt Groening, him, and Phil Rosenthal. It's always hit in Jitlada together once a month. And I know he tried to support me, and everyone that call him for interview, every interview he will bring him to Jitlada, to have the name in there. If anyone miss him watching the City of Gold, you can see how he in and out at Jitlada, how many times, that what the whole fit and the love from him, it showed to the world. And he always in my heart and my soul. And I think everybody still believe in his writing, that's so important. He loved Javier, he loved, Bricia family. I remember he bring Javier so many times that he show up in Jitlada, because he want Javier to know about how the real food in southern of Thailand, how, he taught Javier. And Javier, every time Javier show up any book that I read, I would tell him, you know what, you make Jonathan Go proud, like special right now, all the taco, it's like if you're talking about Los Angeles, I think taco is the best one in the world in Los Angeles. If they have my chili sauce to heat it up, to
We
jazz
got to
it
start
up,
selling it
like
to all the taquerias.
yeah, it no place in the world will have good taco like Los Angeles, and I think Jonathan go bring the whole Los Angeles food to the world. Like if you're talking about New York, talking about everywhere, you cannot complete Los Angeles food with love from Jonathan Gold. That's what my good memory and forever memory that I'm proud, like to be one of his love, to be one of his family love, because all his kids love the food, and he understand that what the real authentic food came from family to family, like Bricia, like Genet, like he proud people that work so hard. He doesn't care you big or small. But if he want to write, he write from his heart because his knowledge about the food. That's why he get the Pulitzer Award in the world, because he deserve it. I am proud, and I am pray for him. I'm still bring the food every single week to the temple for him and Tui, and for Anthony Bourdain.
Yeah.
I almost cooked with him before he died. I met him on the magazine. I think the last thing that before he died 1 month. Like all these people who love the food and will bring the food to the whole world. And I really still appreciate and miss him so much always.
Javier, if you could give us a quick anecdote. And then just for the audience, we're seeing some of your comments there, which are great. Keep throwing those comments. If you have any questions for any of the panelists, we'll start answering them after I ask one final question. But Javier, if you could just give us a quick, great Jonathan anecdote.
Yeah, so it was a trip, man. It was a trip how he always found a way to like help me out. It's like I'm never gonna forget the first, when they made me like into quote unquote food scout, restaurant scout, right? Which was the job. The job description was literally to be the extension of his belly. I was drinking a beer, and it was a Friday afternoon. And I'm never gonna forget when I got that email from Russ Parsons. And
Former food editor for L.A.Times.
Yeah, and then so and he kept on doing that, right? Whether he would like give me like a full page in his profile on the New Yorker, and his profile about him, right? But it's not, or like one of the alternative scenes for the ending of the documentary of John the Gold was they followed me around for a couple of days. He said, take the crew, and so always found a way, and even to like his last days, like when I worked at Vice. And I feel like, for some reason, because Jonathan Gold was such an enigma, he was so mysterious to a lot of people. He never did any kind of a public appearance. He never answered your emails. He never answered your DMs and nothing. He stayed to his own, which is I think everyone respected him so much. So one time, my former boss at Vice, they wanted to interview him for their podcast, and he never did podcasts. But I know that he did it for me. He said yes to it. So he showed up. We went to Mariscos, Jalisco, and we had, and actually after the interview, it was a whatever. It was a good interview with my boss. After the interview, he gave me a ride back home in his famous truck, and me being the husband that I am, I brought some tacos de camarón back for my wife, and we took streets. We took the streets because that's what you do if you're born and raised in LA. Or in Orange County, you don't take the freeway, you take the streets sometimes. And it was rush hour, and right when we got to my house, I rushed out. I jumped out of the car because I was a little nervous. It was even though the ride was like half an hour long, it felt like it was 5 minutes long because we were just talking about food in LA and so much. And then I accidentally forgot the tacos de camarón in his truck. And then like he messaged, and then I DM'd him, but by that point I'm sure I'm telling you, he never responded. And then the next morning he messaged me like, "Yep, I definitely the tacos de camarón definitely stank up my truck, but I love him, so it doesn't matter."
That's so funny. Se los comió.
Yeah.
Really quickly for each of you, we have so many people here who just idolize Jonathan, you, him, whatever. What do you think is the best way now? Each of us in our own, I'm not saying just us four, but everyone in the audience, what's the best way to honor Jonathan's memory as we live, as we continue? What's the best way to do it?
I mean, I just think about being adventurous with what you eat and like never underestimate a corner restaurant, never underestimate a small mom and pop shop. And I think continue to be curious in food. And I think that would be my ultimate, every time I think about him and how we can honor him as Angelinos and continue it on. It's just that it's and also never having a bad meal, even though he would say like, oh, I've eaten plenty of like horrible food, but I think Jonathan had this one gift that he knew how to pick them, and he just really loved food. And I think that just loving food so much, but also staying curious and never feeling like you're above eating at a certain place. It's LA, and I think what makes LA beautiful are people, are immigrants, are kids of immigrants, are it's just this diversity, right? And I think Jonathan knew that from the beginning. To for me, it's just really, just eat great food.
Yeah. Jazz, what do you think? How do you think we
Yeah,
can honor Jonathan?
like Bricia said on, like don't mind about the small plate like hot dog or taco on the stand. I love taco. Nobody know that I eat taco every weekend, but I bring it home with my chili sauce because I love the grilled meat and I love the small people like family making them special. I live in Van Nuys Food Hill. It's so many best place for the taco, and I never stop eating them every weekend that I'm home. But I put my own crazy spicy chili on, and that's what Jonathan girl loves so much about our family. And I be proud, like I told you, my eye tear when I see all the taco big truck, Guelaguetza or everybody like have a big huge restaurant because the love from him. And at least we have second Jonathan go live in Javier, like he taught all the writer to be honest, like it's not the money that you buy the food, it's the quality of the food, the presentation from home kitchen, he doesn't care what nationality you are. We all foreigner. It I can say we reborn because of Jonathan Go. I call him my hero. That's why I feel like I feel like I lost my life and my soul when I know he passed away. When I lost Tui, I still have him. I feel like so secure. He like part of brother or family to me because he always check on me. If I'm okay after Tui die, he will bring people, like 20 people each time. He loved the bitter leaf. Every time that I grow, I try to let not the bitter leaf die because Jonathan Go love like the bitter leaf with coconut with you have to make palm sugar to put it on. He the only one who know this because we call miang kam. Miang kam it coconut, onion, ginger, put it on the bitter leaf and then the palm sugar sauce with chili on top of that. And I'm so happy that after Tui died, he showed up with all the famous people that he loved and he get to eat that. And I still growing that, and every single time that I go to the garden, I will say this is Jonathan Go fabulous that I cannot let it die. We call Bai Chapu, but he called bitter leaf.
Yeah.
It's the green leaf and have some flavor. That's why I told you about Los Angeles. It keep eat good food. The writer keep on it and study well. When I see City of Gold, I can see how many book on the stair that he study. He know the real. He tell you the real thing. If he wrote about 101, that what all the real that he find out, like you cook from your heart, you cook from your love. It's not the money that you cooking. That's why all of us that 101 restaurant survive because you care about every ingredient on your food. You are on it to your cooking. That everything that Jonathan Go wrote about that people believe until now because you are real. He is real and he bring that thing to your family, your life that deserve to be in 101 bed restaurant and try to return back to people. Like I did so many foundation, because every time I did foundation, I believe that he get the merit from me, because the honor that he wrote about us and my brother, it's still alive, and it will pass to Shuka, that only daughter of Toi, only 31 years old, but she learned all the curry, all the sauce that I hope. I give her 3 more years, I'm turned 70, and she can take over everything that I try to save Jonathan Gold writer with Toi to alive, that saved for Los Angeles, that famous Jonathan Gold.
Yeah, wow. Javier, how do we continue Jonathan's legacy?
I think I'm going to refer to one of his quotes. I think one of my favorite quotes from him. He always said the best choice is always a restaurant that is 15 minutes farther than what you're willing to drive. And even for people who are in the industry, even for people who love to eat, who write about food, who cook food, it can be easy to forget that and to just stay in our usual spots that we go to every single week. And not want to drive in traffic, with gas being expensive, with the cost of food going up. But I think the reality is that we do live in an amazing city that is so vast and is home to so many people from so many different backgrounds, which, by the way, Jonathan Gold did not call it a melting pot, because he respected that everyone kept their identity and their culture and their tradition. He called it a cultural mosaic, which I thought was very beautiful. And kind of at a very young age, when I read that, I was like, oh, damn, because everyone, you're talking about cliches, Gustavo, everyone says it's a melting pot. LA is a melting pot. But even with that, Jonathan Gold found a way to not do a cliche.
Can also someone explain to me what a melting pot is?
It's an old. It was the name of a play in the early 1900s, talking about all the immigrants coming in from Southern and Eastern Europe melding together to create Americans. And so it's used as a cliche to mention, America is a melting pot. We have all these different cultures coming in and turning into quote unquote American. And of course, people push back and say, no, America is a salad bowl where everything comes together, but we all keep our different identities intact. But cultural mosaic it's a wonderful metaphor for it, because a mosaic is all these different patterns that make this whole thing. Yet you have different sections of a mosaic as well. So,
and the last thing to honor him, I think I'm sure Bricia will 100% agree with me, and Jazz too, is that don't complain about the high cost of tacos or the high cost of noodles, because the high cost of mole, the high cost of salsas, the high cost of eating out for Mexican or Thai food, because those cuisines are just as valuable and just as beautiful as any kind of Eurocentric cuisine. And he understood this, and
respect.
Yeah, thank you. Otherwise, we not survive. It's special. Like me, the whole bunch of lemongrass, cafe lamb, everything that make it Thai style. I don't care how much I pay, but I will put it the best thing you ever can taste it in the world, because when you're touching, you never can find anywhere else. That's what my love with food with Jonathan Gold.
Yeah. We have time for questions from the audience. So the real moderators, if you could put them up on the screen and I will read them, or at least message them to me privately and I will read them as well. Here we go. From Evil Cooks. Hey, there's Evil Cooks. How's the evolution of the food scene in the Jonathan Gold era and now? Are you guys following any of his steps? How's the evolution of the food scene in Jonathan Gold era and now? Are you guys following any of the steps? I think everyone here is following in the Jonathan Gold way in their own specific way, whether restaurateurs like Jazz and Bricia, authors like Bricia and Javier, moguls of small independent news sites like LA Taco, i.e. podcasters like Bricia and her sister as well. So all of that in that way. But in terms of evolution, I mean, Jonathan, I think what's also extraordinary about Jonathan is that it wasn't so much that he documented an evolving LA as he just documented the LA that was already there. I mean, I remember when I was doing my book, Taco USA, talking about how even as recently as the mid-1980s, reporters at the Los Angeles Times, writers, and other publications were saying, oh, LA has no good Mexican food. There's no good Mexican food. Even though already you have that huge diasporas from, Jalisco, Zacatecas, Michoacan, all that. The Oaxacan diaspora starting to slowly bubble up.
Fighting words, Gustavo. You're starting with fighting words. What's happening here?
This is the LA Times before me, okay? This is before the current one. This is 85. But Jonathan came in and said, this is what's out there. But the great thing is that he, we already had big Thai communities as well. But Jonathan just did his reporting job and documented it. Especially, I still think that so many great contributions, but him covering, we're all talking Los Angeles, but we forget probably where he's most famous worldwide is his coverage of the San Gabriel Valley, which technically is not Los Angeles. It's Los Angeles County, but it's its own world out there. So I think in that sense, Jonathan, that's how he, quote unquote, tracked the evolution of LA. Next question. It was a little great Evil Cooks. I appreciate it, but it was a little bit something else. BP asks, can you provide us with an update on Laurie and Jonathan's kids? Javier, do you want to take that one? Can we speak?
No, I think you're closer to you work with Laurie. Have you heard anything much on her behalf? I know he was a very private. They're a very private family, so
yeah. All I'll say is that Laurie is the director now.
Yeah, she get the new position. I was proud of her.
I will say that Leon is a mini JG 100%. His son is just like a reflection of his father in the best way possible. I feel like Leon is like an incredible eater, and just this beautiful human being. His daughter, the sweetest. I know she was in college. I don't think she's out of college already. I know she went, I think Chicago, and I just want to say that, I think, whoever you are, your children always are a reflection of you, right? And whether we want to admit it or not, and sometimes we do not want to admit that, but they really are a reflection of who you are. And they're just as wonderful and as lovely as their parents. And they really are a reflection of who Jonathan Gold, continues to be. But I always saw his son, and he was just like his little mini me. And it's just like so beautiful to see.
Yeah.
Yeah, he loved food like his father.
He still loves food. Yeah, it's like the most amazing thing. Yeah. And like talks just like his dad, and it's like the most beautiful thing. Yeah.
And Laurie just, along with Daniel Hernandez, another acolyte of Jonathan, they're reshaping our food section at the Los Angeles Times to really be in the, in the legacy of Jonathan. So still doing that. All right, next question. What do we have next? Hey, Suji, a former colleague of mine at OC Weekly. So vlogs and Instagram Reels fill a need, but they don't really have the same power to sway opinion as Jonathan Gold's writing. How might have Jonathan's work have evolved in the current social media landscape? Well, we all followed him on Twitter, and he was always so
Jonathan was like a Twitter guy, and he was I think Jonathan would continue to thrive in Twitter. Jonathan was on Instagram, but I think Jonathan's was at Twitter forever, and his tweets remain. His tweets are incredible to I think he was definitely a Twitter guy. I don't see Jonathan doing Reels.
No.
I don't really see Jonathan doing TikTok transitions and looking at what the trends are. But I would love. I always think of the things he would write about that. I feel like he would be a great commentator on influencers, in that page Influencers in the Wild. I feel like he would be a great commentator on creating captions for people. But he thrived in Twitter. He thrived in Twitter.
Yeah, he would. I don't think he would have looked down on the TikTok generation or anything like that. Knowing him, he'd probably compare them to the flaneurs of Paris and Fin de Sleek, in the late 1800s or something. Always with those amazing metaphors and comparisons. I think that's what he would have done.
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure the Times would have hired a young person to find a way of making his stories into reels, and it would have been
Meme team
really
404.
fun, really fun and exciting.
So,
Oh,
we got time for, I think, one more question, and Jazz seems to have jumped off. We'll bring her back as soon as we can. Any more questions, folks? Oh, hey, sorry, I got a Chihuahua on my lap, so he almost growled right now. Tio Wally, oh, Tio Wally, what's up? What is a singular Jonathan Gold sentence you'll never forget? Javier, you're the writer among us. Which is it?
Let's see. I have a couple actually that I pulled out just in case. I think again, I'm as a journalist guy, I'm really fascinated with how to get people to go outside and get excited about food. So he did a panel in 2015, and this is what he said. It says it's easy to hold up in whatever enclaves you happen to be in. And I'm not even going to say the rich people with their beautiful house in the hills. There are also people holed up in the Chinese enclaves or the Central American enclaves south of Midtown, or the Cambodians in North Long Beach. There are so many ways to be insular in LA. There are so many ways to live your life without being more than dimly aware of other people's cultures. In my writing, the idea is to pluck people out of their comfort zones and make them live in their entire city. We have it. We might as well do it. So, again, go out and eat.
He had a way. My favorite sentence was, it's also my favorite food review he ever did, and I've so many, but he did one of Arturo's Puffy Tacos in Whittier. Puffy Taco is a staple of San Antonio that also has an outpost in Whittier, of all places. So he introduces it with this Chicana from San Antonio who goes around the world. She works for a hotel, so she goes to Japan, teaches Japanese chefs how to make sushi. She goes to Europe, France, teaches people how to make frogs legs, all of this. But when she goes home, all she wants to go eat is Puffy Tacos. So this badass Chicana takes him to Arturo Puffy Taco. Jonathan had never had Puffy Tacos before. He eats them. He thinks they're absolutely amazing. Just is so evocative in the comparisons and all, the taste and all of that. Then he goes back home, all excited, tells Laurie. So Laurie all of a sudden becomes a character in this. And Laurie's like, oh yeah, Arturo Puffy Taco. We used to go there all the time during high school. He leaves it like that. And then Jonathan, the final line is 26 wasted years, basically saying like, here's an entire lifetime. I thought it was all badass. Undercut him, elevated Laurie. Hilarious, poignant, so LA. That to me is just such like the quintessential Jonathan line. Like I teach that food review in particular to my students because I teach at a community college, and they all just get floored because like you want to talk about setup, execution, and then payoff. That was Jonathan. Like any of you
Do you
who want
have a copy of that?
I'll after this, I'll tweet it out. I'm at Gustavo Arellano, everyone, but I'll tweet it out there and I'll send it. It came out on LA Weekly. And like any of you who want to be writers, just read all of Jonathan's stuff. It is.
So I just took a writing class last week, and they said that the best thing a writer could do, and I didn't even think about this for Jonathan Gold, but the best thing that you can do as a writer, if any of you who are watching and who are aspiring writers, I would tell you that the best thing you can do based on this writing class that I took, they said that you can take someone's writing that you admire and get a piece of paper or a computer and write it word for word, like just copy it word for word, and then take a deep breath and then go on and write whatever you're going to write. And it's a way to stretch your mind and imagination the same way runners stretch before they go for a run. This is something that writers should do before writing. And I've been I don't know why and I'm so glad we're talking, because I'm like, nah, I'm going to take all Jonathan Gold's writing and I'm just going to write it, and it will be beautiful to just rewrite and relive, and just, it's such beautiful. It's like a writing at its best.
Yeah.
It's poetry. It's everything that you want. And it just so happens to be about food. And we just happen to be so lucky to, have found him here in LA. So for any writers, that's a great advice that I received. And also take Javier's writing and take Jonathan Gold's writing, rewrite it, and then, go for it.
No, absolutely. We could talk forever, but our time is up. So Jazz, Javier, Bricia, thank you so much for hanging out here, being able to talk about Jonathan, cathartic, inspirational, all of that. And folks, please, this is the anniversary of his passing. Honor Jonathan, read his stuff, go to the restaurants that he wrote about, go to the restaurants that he didn't have a chance to write about, especially
Go to
during
restaurants,
this time.
period.
Go to restaurants. That's what I'm saying. I'm leading up to that, especially at this time where restaurants need it now more than ever. And of course, Genet, who wanted to participate, she was here with us in spirit. Unfortunately, prevented us, but everyone, follow everyone. Thank you. And thank you, LA Public Library, for having the smarts, for lack of a better term, to doing an event like this. So thank you. And I think,
Thank you for having me too. Thank
of course,
you so
Jazz,
much.
of course.
Yeah.
Thank you all. So I guess we bid adieu.
Big thing for my heart to talk about him forever.
No, thank you. Okay, library moderators. There you go. There's Steve.
Yeah. Hey, how's it going? Thank you very much,
Thanks,
everybody.
Steve.
Thank you very much. We'll close
Thank
out.
you,
We want to
Diane.
appreciate all the beautiful words and sentiments that y'all expressed to us today. It was very warm feelings all over. Thank you very much.
Thank you, guys. It was amazing.
Thank you again. Gracias.
Gracias a ustedes. Thank you again, everyone who joined us today for today's LA Made. I think Jonathan's looking down. Look, I'm going to get emotional. So remember to check out the library's online calendar at lapl.org/events.
And don't forget to check out our next LA Made on Thursday, August 11th at 4 p.m. We're going to have best-selling author Rabbi Steve Leder, who will be discussing his latest book, For You When I'm Gone, A Guide to Writing an Ethical Will. An ethical will is a document that includes stories and reflections about your past and is a way to remember a loved one who is gone. Rabbi Leder has helped thousands of people write their own ethical wills, and in this intimate book, he helps us write our own. Viewers will have an opportunity to win a free copy of Rabbi Leder's book, For You When I Am Gone.
Until next time, we truly appreciate all your support. The success of LA Made in all of our library programs could not happen without viewers like you. So thank you. Mil gracias. Bye-bye.
Take care.